Cannabis Applications Corporation has issued no less than 6 press releases since the last time we talked. So very much looking forward to getting updates. It sounds like you've been very busy. CEO Bradley Moore, also a technology partner, Brian Collins, will be joining in with us as well. But Brad, let's start with you. So what's behind these 6 press releases that have been issued in the past month or so?
Well, we've been working, right? I mean, that's the wonderful thing is we've we're funded up, we're executing well. We've been, we've got our great partner Brian Collins from Abbey Technology with us, who's what I like to say the backbone of our knowledge set on the application of producing better outcomes for medical cannabis patients. I never want to get away from that, right? There's a lot of talk. We talk about technology, we talk about blockchain, we talk about tokens, we talk about AI, but what's this all about? It's about a need in the medical cannabis market. And each one of those 6 press releases is part of that incredible story we're bringing. And I think, as you've seen in the last one, we've been attending these different events with Prohibition Partners, and now with one coming up next week at Cannabis Europe. And we're going to be, once again, these are selling shows. We're into our prime selling. We're out telling people about Afixi, and we're getting cultivators to use it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it sounds like, your mission, and everything else is kind of extraneous. So, which is, typically what a good business does.
100%,
so,
yeah.
So, Brian, let's talk about the classified marketing token. That was prominent in a lot of the press releases. So tell us what that is. What's that all about?
Sure. For us, Jane, it was really about innovating in the funding space with companies that are in the blockchain space, because the way we do this is on a decentralized finance paradigm. So using services like Uniswap and PancakeSwap that allow a token to be allocated and effectively shares, want of a better term, to be purchased in the company using decentralized finance. So you don't have to go and open a brokerage account. You don't have to go and do massive amounts of KYC. Like the KYC for a typical account in Canada would be about 60 pages long. You don't have to do that kind of heavy lift, so to speak. And it's typically for smaller players, smaller investors, really, to allow them on the ladder of interesting companies. And I find Brad's company particularly interesting. So that's really why we came in.
A new class of investors, so to speak, these token holders, without having to go through all the compliance, which can be quite burdensome.
Yeah, and it's also trying to embrace the smaller investor. Typically, it's kind of elitist, and I don't mean to sound cruel there, but in order to open a brokerage account, you can't be earning $10,000 a year. A stockbroker won't allow you in. So the idea here is that you can actually invest $5, $6, $50 in Brad's business. If you like the Global Cannabis Applications paradigm, and the fact that Brad is publicly committed as a public company CEO to spending a piece of his top line as a minimum of 1% of his top line revenues per quarter buying back the token, means he's really buying into this as well. So as an investor, not only do I like his company, but I also like the fact that as his company grows, my shares increase in value. That's the paradigm for public markets and capital markets. It's also the paradigm for decentralized finance.
Sure. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And Brad, this is good for the balance sheet as well.
It's amazing for the balance sheet. I mean, and you know what? Oh, look, everything moves around every market, right? But as Brian said something, it's specifically tied to revenue, right? So I have to, the smart, and I would encourage everybody to really kind of dig in. And if you're a publicly traded company, as us being the first ones, I would get hold of Abbey Technology if I was you. I would really consider this, because for us, this is the great equalizer, Jane, right? We're, as you know, when you're a small micro cap, the tide goes in, the tide goes out. I'm like a guppy flopping around in the waves. Well, this gives me a bit of a fin. And as my revenue grows, that fin gets bigger because I'm committing. The commitment of the 1% is relative to, what I do in the buyback program. And so, like I said, and it's fully compliant. It was Brian created the token. Is a marketing program, and I got to tell you, like, I've spent a lot of money on corporate communications and telling the story and this kind of stuff. The fact that I was able to add in, I think, what was it, Brian, 300 odd new investors for an initial investment of $20,000, it's mind-boggling. mind-boggling to me. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And so we're very excited. Whether it's up, it's down, it's sideways, it's 300 new people talking about this company. And the most important thing, they're also cannabis users too, because they fall within that spectrum of our end user profile.
Mm-hmm. And Brad, the share price has been volatile. I think cannabis has been kind of volatile. I would say since like last fall. So what do you attribute that volatility to?
Well, look, as a publicly traded company CEO, it's never my job to speculate on the share price. I think it's an exciting space. I think we saw a little bit of this in 2018 when you start to use things like cannabis and blockchain, and people get excited and the opportunities. But like I said, there's a lot of different market forces that are out there that we work with, and some we work against. Right? I think one of the major constructs of doing the token was the ability of what I like to call the great equalizer, right? As the company's revenue grow, then in fact from there, that's reflected into those new shareholders. So whether we're up or we're down, the most important thing is, as long as we're executing, we're fully funded, we're executing, we're putting money into the company, driving sales forward, that's what we're supposed to do. So
last question, the dropship concept, how does that fit into the whole business model?
It's a huge part of it, and it's a huge part of it, obviously, because specifically in Canada. So we're, as I like to say, we're a blockchain company with a cannabis problem, right? And that cannabis problem is a lack of data. Okay, and you've heard me say this over and over and over. We believe that there's two critical relationships, a cultivator and a consumer. That's it. And so in Canada, we've applied for a non-possession selling license, and as I reported back, with the paperwork's in, it's in the government system, which are like all federal governments. We sit and we wait it out. But the exciting part about that is we're going to have the ability to work directly with Canadian consumers. Okay, so we're going to wedge ourselves in between the cultivators so that there's no question about what they understand, what they should have in their body. So our thing is that, hey, you want to talk to these Canadian medical cannabis consumers, they're now educated, they're smart, they're aware, and they only want to use products that have the efficacy system on them. And that's pretty exciting stuff. And that's a great model. Why that's really exciting, Jane, is that's a great model for what we can use in Israel and the EU, and specifically into our entrance into the American market as we learn from those and we apply that into different states. And I also think, too, as you saw in my last press releases, we're saying with this small to medium size program, look, we've made efficacy to the point now where, unless you're printing a QR code, you're not writing a check to anybody. So if you're a cultivator and you want to stay on the right side of the regulator, you want to lower your compliance costs and you want to increase sales, you should be getting hold of me. bmore@cannabiscorp.com, send me an email, we'll get you set up. If it's as simple as getting in like a crypto wallet set up, it's that simple, and you need a QR code printer, nothing else. That's it. And you don't pay until you print. And if you want to drive up your sales through consumer trust and lower your compliance costs, I for the life of me, I could not understand why you wouldn't want to be doing that and saving yourself a whole bunch of headaches.
Well, thank you so much, Brad and Brian, for joining us. And don't wait till you get 6 press releases out. Let's do this again when you get like 1 or 2. So
okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jane.